And now, the Big D and Bubba Weekly Podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. And Bubba, yeah. They have a show 5 days a week, but they don't get to say everything that's on their mind, so they have an extra one. And that's how we get the podcast.
Come
the
on.
Podcast, the podcast. The Big D and Bubba Weekly Podcast.
I kind of like that one.
I do too. That's a good one.
It's like Bruno Mars, but not. If you like Bruno Mars, you'll love Pluto Mars. Sorry. I have a new favorite jingle here on the show. I just got to share. Big D came up with this game, and basically it's puts Carson against whomever, and she usually is victorious because
Don't screw it up.
Didn't we do a whole thing where like, who had the highest ACT and she was the lowest?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so.
But
What
you
was
know
your
what's-
college GPA?
3.
Same.
Y'all went to college?
And the only reason I even know that is because you had to provide transcripts when you applied for the NBC Page program. They wouldn't take anybody with lower than a 3.
Hey, speaking of, we were supposed to have your friend, the
I
NBC
know.
Page alum.
He got stuck. He has a job, and he's here to produce podcasts, and they booked him producing a podcast right now. He's so, when I tell you guys how mad he is, the disappointment that he keeps sending me in texts. Even he's like, I mean, I'm going to be free after like 12:15. I go, that's about when we're starting, and I'd have to go get him.
Just
And
t-
I'm like,
yeah, well, tell him to Uber.
you know, so
Send
well,
him
okay,
the
I'll
thing and
text
say,
him like,
Uber,
hey.
get here fast.
I like to be done before he gets here.
That's
but
the
I'm like,
thing.
yeah.
Lolita Adams,
Well, he's a
get
mile down
here.
the road.
Oh, that's
Oh,
not
yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Dude, tell him to hoof it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Hey, we just started the podcast. If you want to drop by, I don't know if you can get an Uber, but we're right here.
I love you. Send.
Did not pick that up.
Dang it.
I think about you more than I should. Send.
Yikes. That's a yikes.
Oh, Big D used to do that to me all the time because I am the king of voice texting. It's so great.
And it would pick it up too, man.
Yeah.
Would.
It would pick it up.
It would. And, you know, the send thing only works if you're doing it with Siri.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, you know, if you do, if I do this, I go, oh, why is it not doing it? Siri. Send text to Big D. And then, like, you know, you're waiting on it. And then, hey, I want to go ahead and have you eat lunch. I love you, send. And then it'll literally send it.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
done.
I'll
It's
be
already
honest. I
sent.
think another big disappointment for him is he really wants to go to Waffle House.
He's never been.
No, he has. The problem is I don't know. I guess they don't have Waffle House in Los Angeles.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so no, his whole thing was like, so I'm basically free after we do the podcast, so maybe we could work in a Waffle House trip.
I love Waffle
I pick him up
House.
from the airport. He's like counting all the Waffle Houses that we pass. He's
Like,
so excited.
You guys really love Waffle House.
I do.
You love-
I do.
it's your favorite place?
It's not my favorite place, but I will tell you, Waffle House has been there for me. Through my divorce, when I was doing like the solo travel a lot, I would go home and it was always there. It was always open. It was always reliable. That, you know, I spent a Christmas dinner at Waffle House in Houma, Louisiana, my hometown, and it was
Wait,
it
why?
was amazing.
You were in your hometown.
Nobody knew I was coming. Nobody knew I was coming. It was Christmas Eve, and I just decided
And
to drive
instead
down
of
there.
telling them that you were in town, you were like, I'll tell them after I eat at Waffle House?
It was late. It was like 12:30 by the time I got into town. I wasn't, you know,
Okay.
going to reach out to people. I didn't make up my mind until I hit Hattiesburg, Mississippi, that I was going to continue going that way. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I was going to Baton Rouge, and then I was like, I'm going to go to Houma. I haven't been there in forever. So I just drove down, and I went to Waffle House, and I walked in. It was me and, like, the people working there and, like, 2 other people. And I'll do the total flex. I gave the waitress a $100 tip. And then as I was walking out, she goes, hey! And then I hurried up and ran, jumped in my car, and left.
Oh.
And because I knew what she was going to say, thank you or something. I didn't want all that.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself that if she...
Bubba's so weird.
I was thinking-
so far your story's got 2 weird plot areas. Like, I didn't tell anyone.
I didn't.
I told that's weird. And the other one, and then she was coming out, and I got my took
Yeah,
off.
I didn't want to have to deal with the whole
But
thank
it's-
yous
it's,
and all that. But I
it's-
figured if she was working on Christmas Eve, she needed $100 much more than I did.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, you know what?
No, that's
cool.
very nice. Yeah,
nice.
agreed.
So that's why. But I didn't want her to say thank you.
Well,
Like
instead
I
of
was
that-
trying to sneak it by.
Yeah, but I'm glad you told us though.
I told y'all because it was. I told y'all because it was.
Isn't that the best?
Don't screw it up.
Don't screw up. I think of that kid all the time. I say that in my head twice a week.
What?
Don't screw it up.
Don't screw
That's a
up.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he called one day and he was doing something, and I forget what it was about, but he literally said to us,
Don't screw it up.
We're like,
Oh.
okay,
All right, well.
bye.
"You're gold."
We've been schooled. All right.
Don't screw up. Well, too late.
Every single day.
What we're known for, son.
Oh, actually, oh my gosh! Speaking of things we're known for,
Yeah.
are you ready for this? Let me go to big shout out to my boy Scott Gunther. We were talking about stuff. He said, I just wanted to see what was going on, so I asked ChatGPT. He put in, why shouldn't I listen to Big D and Bubba's radio show? And ChatGPT replied, ha ha, all right, that's a spicy question. Ooh.
All right.
Whether you shouldn't listen to Big D and Bubba really depends on your taste. Some reason someone might say to skip the show, it's very country. If you're not into country music or small town Southern style humor, it might not hit for you.
I wouldn't completely agree with that.
All right, remember this is
wouldn't either, but
ChatGPT. Dad jokes and goofiness.
No.
Oh, well, suddenly ChatGPT has our number.
Big D and Bubba lean into silly humor and lighthearted banter. If you're more into sharp wit or edgy comedy,
What?
it could feel corny.
Oh, no.
That's what I was saying. I'm like, what?
That was right between the
It
eyes.
says there's lots of talk and less music. It's a very talk-heavy show for a music station. So if you're trying to
don't think
vibe
that's-
with songs, no, and I totally
that's
disagree.
not true either.
We have more balance, better balance. We think about the balance more than any other radio show on planet Earth, I promise you. But it says, so if you're just trying to vibe with songs, the chatter might get in the way. Okay. This is my favorite one. ChatGPT says, Big D and Bubba have occasionally cringy bits.
Ouch.
What? We'd never do.
Yeah, a lot.
It says some of their jokes or segments might feel off color depending upon your sensibilities.
Off color?
What?
Off color.
That's not.
I don't think ChatGPT knows what that means.
There's like 3-4 things it's already missed.
Well, we did say today that people need to, learn to teach their kids how to lose. And that's kind of off color to some people. That could, if their sensibilities are there, then no, you have to helicopter parent. You got to let your kid fall. You got to let your kid touch the stove and get burnt so they know, don't touch the stove.
I guess off color I took as dirty.
Dirty. Yeah, no, we don't really get, no, not
no.
really.
Oh, gosh, no. I
There
took
might
off
be
color as...
There might be an innuendo, but it's it's usually, it's not us, it's from a caller. They'll say something.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Here goes. Big D and Bubba are not super deep.
No.
If you like shows,
Yikes.
that dive into real world issues, deep philosophy, or science, this ain't that.
Excuse me, we dive into science because I know the amount of times that I get bored and roll my eyes because y'all nerd out on science stuff.
Again,
So ChatGPT is a liar.
then it says in a summary, that said, some folks love the show for exactly
Did you just say
those.
folks?
Yeah, that's what ChatGPT.
No, you did.
No, it says folks.
Yeah, I know, but you said it the way you said it.
What? Folks?
Okay, wait a minute. Let me finish this, and then we'll go back to this. That said, some folks love the show for exactly those reasons. It's goofy, casual, and feels like hanging out with a couple of longtime friends. So if you're asking, did they say something that bugged you, or are you just sizing them up? And then he said this. He goes, "This is dumb."
At least you're consistent with the yokes and the
Yeah,
folks.
it's
Okay, so so folks, what do you say?
folks.
Folks?
Like FOKES. That's how it should be spelled. Yeah, like folks.
Oh, wow. Oh, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah,
Folks.
I don't like the L in it. The way he
Well, he folks.
he puts the L.
It's got
in
an
it.
L in it. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right, well, I am going to go to the old dictionary here and check it out.
Folk.
See?
Oh, They don't say the L.
Folk.
Because nobody says the L.
Right.
It's in there. It's in the word. Yolk and folk.
Okay,
And
there's a P in pterodactyl.
I do. I say it on purpose just to irk people. Pterodactyl.
Folks. But I guess I do say
Folks. I don't like saying. See, if I
what's
say
going on, folks?
folks, it just sounds like I'm trying to. It sounds like I'm being.
But you don't say like folklore. You say like folklore.
No.
I do say folklore.
folklore. Folk.
Folklore.
Oh my gosh. Folk. I don't know.
Okay, hold on. I want to know if it's folklore or is it folklore?
Folklore.
That sounds like both. Okay, that's weird.
All right, we'll just meet in the middle then.
It will. Yeah, no, I'm looking. There's no.
I'm
L.
allowing for the one L in folklore, and it's not the one before the K.
Folklore.
Folklore. I'm going to start saying folklore just to mess with you and make you so irked out. Folklore.
No, it's weird.
Don't screw it up.
Now you see why I came up with the game.
Yeah, hey.
This girl.
What are some other words that I say that irk you? I know Big D doesn't like the way I say ambulance.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah.
I have changed my ways. I let it flow nicely that time, and it felt great. Ambulance. But
That was your.
but I have to say ambulance or whatever you say,
Yeah.
just to keep you from. It's an ambulance.
Ambulance.
That's so right.
Ambulance.
In German, it's Krankenwagen.
Oh,
Krankenwagen?
okay.
Yeah.
Ambulance.
Oh, it is ambulance.
Yes. Yes, it is. I love how you keep checking this.
Strawberry. Let's go to the internet.
I do say strawberry too. I say strawberry, and he's like strawberry.
Strawberry.
Do you say February?
No.
I'd say February.
February.
February. How do I say it? February.
February.
Yeah. I just kind of slur it like everybody else.
Like everybody else does.
February.
February.
Strawberry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know how to say it. Everyone has some kind of weird thing.
I have a bunch. You can't say hill or gill or
Oh,
anything with an
Carson.
ILL.
I was telling the guys earlier. I said, Tracy, my bud Tracy, who he was watching the Masters with me last night, yesterday afternoon, and he always says he's the one that says mediocre.
Oh.
And he always says something off, and his wife's just like tries to correct him. You know what I mean? Last night it was fluttered, as in my mom would order so many packages that it would flutter the porch. Tracy.
Oh.
Then I put Tracy April 2025. I have it.
You
Keep
have
it
a
in
list,
my notes.
right?
Yeah, I have it in my notes on my phone.
How many entries
Yeah,
are there?
Christian just asked, is it worth me coming by now, or is there not enough time?
Yes. Stop typing and move.
Bubba says yes.
Yeah, come on. I want to hear some of these great stories about
Okay.
back in the day of Carson and the whole. You guys have. I love those stories because that whole NBC Page thing is such a cool vibe because
And then I'll take you to Waffle House.
Me too. But that is such a cool vibe because nobody has that experience. I mean, how many pages are there active at any given time when you were there?
When I was there, maybe 50 or 60.
In this whole entire building of 30 Rock.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you guys did not just like tours. What?
You give tours, you seat audiences, but then you get to work on shows like Christian's got great stories because some of the assignments he had that I think he did some stuff with SNL like that. He was assigned to Saturday Night Live. He was assigned to the Rosie O'Donnell show. Yeah, he did really cool stuff. Like I did the special events. So I was doing the Macy's parade and I was doing the tree lighting. And then I did election night because it was an election year. But yeah, so you get to be all over the building and get, into different areas. And it's supposed to be your kick start into television.
So you've been like because it's so weird. Like I know whenever we go, like radio studios are radio studios. To me, I never get really wowed out about them because I've seen a billion of them. But I love going to a TV studio because it's a different world, and it's all fake. It's all these little weird segments, these little sets that they have set up. And like, you see the weather person, and on TV, it just looks like they're in this giant weather central thing. And literally they're standing in front of a screen.
Yep.
And it's lame and it's whatever. And I just love the magic of it.
Yeah. Everybody says the same thing when you take the tour. It's a lot smaller than I thought it would be. We know. We know.
I went to, when Dee and I were at the Super Bowl, we went by Fox News one day because they were doing Somebody Outside. You know how they do those little concerts?
Yeah.
And then we got there like late or whatever, but like their little set, it's not as big as you think either. They're just on this corner of this building, and you can stand back there and, wave and stuff.
Yeah, the sets are bigger in Los Angeles. I will say that. When I went to NBC in L.A., they had more room because they have space to expand. New York, you got to fit everything in teeny tiny buildings, and that's how they do it. They do by stack it up.
So is he coming?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's calling an Uber.
Yes.
And then again, if you guys call it, I'll just take him to Waffle House. He'll still be happy.
Okay.
So.
I looked it up, and there are no Waffle Houses in Los Angeles. That's crazy to me.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have. Yeah. I tell you, like his excitement getting in my car the other night and starts counting Waffle Houses. And I was like,
Seems like a missed opportunity for Waffle House.
yeah. I just don't know. Maybe they have stuff there that stays open later. So maybe it's not as needed in that area.
By the way, that's something I would like to address. I absolutely miss everything staying open late. I miss 24-hour Walmart. All the Walmarts by my house used to be 24 hours. They now close at like 10 p.m. And it's the worst because on a weekend, that was my thing. I would go and I'd get all my shopping done like on a Friday night or a Saturday night, late at night, and it was awesome. No crowds, no lines, none of that.
Did you ever do that, Dee? Would you get up early and go? Because I can't see you staying up late to go shopping.
No, for like grocery stuff? Really?
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's
Okay.
not that big of a deal. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, there's more people there, but it's not like it's packed.
Yeah.
So no, it doesn't. To me, it's not worth doing all that. But that's just me.
I don't like the lines of. So the one I go to is like it's got a real wonky exit, and so people pile up, and it's one entrance, one exit, and it's like this bottleneck. It's a terrible design, but I mean they had to put a location in that area because it was an underserved spot. But it's so bottlenecked you can't get in or out, and it's terrible. So that's why I like going when it's less crowded.
That's when I go at 7 a.m. to that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
know
do
the
it.
one I'm talking
Yep,
about.
second they open, I'm there, and I take a right turn because I'm not going to try to turn left, and I'll flip a Yui.
Oh yeah,
It's cool.
well to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's such a pain to get out, but I do that now. I've just decided my goal is to make my life easier in all ways. So if that means I know a back road to a street where I can catch a light, that I don't want to try to inch up. Oh, nope, can't go. Can't. No. I just give me a traffic light, give me an arrow, give me a signal. I don't want the stress of it.
You know, I have a neighborhood watch. So I have a little update about Waffle House in my neighborhood. The Waffle House in my neighborhood closes at 9 p.m. That's how hood my place is. I love it. I'm like, this is how you know you're living in the place. It's so alive and so crazy. You can't even get it to go past 9 p.m.
Wow.
Because they're afraid of crime or something?
Yeah. Yeah, somebody got shot at the Taco Bell the other day. Like it was like a Taco Bell murder or something. I don't know. It was crazy. I don't know if it was a customer or somebody that worked there. I was like, okay, well, let's go eat somewhere else.
Did you get your Lux box?
I love the Lux boxes. And if you get them on the app, you get them like cheap and you get all the other stuff.
I was talking bad about the Taco Bell app, but it's redeemed itself.
Okay.
Started throwing me rewards, and it actually started making a dent in my my total.
Okay.
So back in my good graces, Taco Bell.
Do they still have the pintos and cheese?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
back?
I get
It's back?
No, it's the same thing. Yeah, I get it.
Oh, I thought it went away for a while.
What
Did
is
it?
that? Just beans and cheese?
Yeah.
It's-
You remember the little pintos? They used to do pintos and cheese.
And then you dump a bunch of hot sauce into it and you
Oh,
use your little
okay, no.
spork and you stir it up.
Man, the
and-
spork. Let's go.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a Taco Bell near me growing up, so that wasn't something I knew.
Really?
No. Dude, I don't think we got a McDonald's till I was 7. So, Cheshire,
What kind of weird
Cheshire, Connecticut
bubble
was
were you
keeping
in?
out that kind of. They allow a Dunkin' because you're not allowed in the Northeast without one. But otherwise, yeah, fast food was not real.
Arby's?
No, Arby's was 2 towns over. The Wendy's was the next town over. I didn't see my first Walmart until I was probably 17 because they built one the next town over. Yeah.
Well, did you guys have a Kmart before
There
that?
was a Kmart.
In Cheshire?
No. Oh, no. No. Like, we had one in the area. But no, we didn't have.
We can't have a Walmart.
No,
or a
we didn't.
Kmart
I
in
remember it was a big
Cheshire.
deal when I was in high school. We got a Burger King. That was really big news. We had a Pizza Hut.
Where did
growing
you
up.
guys hang out? Like, you know, in high school, I know Big D. What was the little place you guys hung out? It was a parking lot of something. Like, there was a McDonald's parking lot we
A
hung
Burger
out
King?
at. And
We
there
went
was
to
a
a
Burger
Burger
King
King.
parking lot that we hung out in. Like, when you're teenagers, everybody would meet in their cars and just...
Oh my gosh, we were so overscheduled as children and teenagers that no, you hung out at school because you had whatever practice, whatever club, like, and it was, you were involved and you did everything. You did all these sports, you did all these clubs, activities for your college resume. So yeah, everybody was at school until 9 o'clock at night just doing stuff. That's where, a friend of mine got busted smoking weed in the parking lot. But that's the point. That's what, like, kids, nobody left the school grounds. Or if they did, if you were going to Burger King, you're probably not going to get into a great college. So yeah, nobody left.
What?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, Cheshire, Connecticut is exactly how it sounds. Or it was.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you were looked down upon if you went to BK. That's
Yeah, like, who had the
so-
time? Who had the time to go to Burger King?
Well, I
That
mean,
was like,
okay.
oh
do
my
they have
gosh.
like a Chick-fil-A now?
No.
I mean, that seems like
no,
a very
mm-mm,
Cheshire
there's
type
no
thing.
Chick-fil-A in my hometown. I'm like trying to think the last time I was there, which is Christmas. Yeah, okay, we have a McDonald's. I don't actually, the Burger King may not be there anymore. We had McD's. I don't know if the Subway is
Snooty.
still there. Yes, yeah.
Snooty.
I wanted to learn how to pronounce this right.
It's not snotty. It's
Snooty.
snoot. It is snooty.
Snooty.
There's no L.
Yeah, I think it's because we had so many local. They really put the premium on local places. So we had local diners and Italian restaurants, local pizza joints, the Vic House.
What's the Vic House?
It was an old Victorian house where you could go, like pub kind of stuff. That's where all the firefighters hung out.
Okay.
Our volunteer firefighters. Yeah, like somebody tried to put in a Domino's once. That didn't last long because why would you get Domino's when you had all these other pizza places that people have been going to for decades? Like, they couldn't compete with the heritage.
When we were living in Brentwood, they stopped Hooters from moving into the Cool Springs area because it's so family friendly. They're like, this does not fit our thing, so they wouldn't let a Hooters in. But then, like, a year or two later, they let a Twin Peaks in.
Yep.
And I laughed because Hooters had the reputation that Twin Peaks is.
Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy.
Hooters is not
No.
what people think it is. Huh?
No. Again, Hooters is like, oh, it's girls in tank tops and shorts. It's cute. And then you go to Twin Peaks and you're like, oh, it's like Britney Spears' Baby One More Time in here.
Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Never
Especially
heard
when
of Twin Peaks.
What? You've never been?
I've never been, never heard. There was never any around me growing up, so
Oh, wow.
I only ever got the Hooters experience.
Well, if you ever go to a Twin Peaks for your first time, don't go on a holiday because holidays are like special occasions and they have dress-up things. You didn't know about the whole dress-up thing? Oh, no.
Amazingly enough, as a straight woman, I
Yeah.
don't go to Twin Peaks a lot.
Good point. But I'm saying, like, they do dress-up things and theme days and all that kind of stuff. So you don't want to go on your first time there. You want to go when they're just wearing their little lumberjack outfits. You know, that you go on the typical, that's your first one. It's like I tell people all the time when they ask about going to New Orleans. I say never go for your first time at Mardi Gras because it's not the same city. And it's the same thing with, like, Twin Peaks. Never go on a holiday or a theme day for your first time. After
First time
that,
I went to New Orleans was Mardi Gras. That was good.
it messed you up, though, for it.
Nah, I was in college though. It was fun.
Yeah, most people, they go and they're like, this place is too much. Because it can be.
Nashville's getting to be that way.
Oh my gosh.
I worry about Nashville because, you know, I see what happened to Bourbon Street and I see what happened to all that stuff. And I worry that they have to stay on top of protecting Nashville. I mean, you're never going to go back, but at least keep it at the level it's at because, I mean, you've got to increase your police presence and all that kind of stuff. You got to just make it safe.
I was driving through downtown because I was just trying to get from my hair appointment back home. And it was just the easiest. There was traffic on the highway. And I'm coming down 5th. and I missed the light, which means now I'm watching the just throng of people crossing. And then the people who don't watch, like, hey, it says don't walk. Now I'm going to try to walk. And I'm getting more and more irritated. And I'm like, I'm going to run you over. Get out. And I'm like, oh, this is not good for my stress level. This is why I need to keep Ubering places. This was not good.
So you know how they have all the people that cross at the stoplights like you're talking about? I used to honk at them. Like right when they get right in front of the car, I go, Marr! And they would jump, and I would laugh, ha, 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 and they'd flip me off.
But were they
whatever.
doing it right? Were they supposed to be crossing?
Yeah.
And you were just being a jerk?
Yeah, no, I wasn't being a jerk. I was just having fun because it was just fun to watch them jump.
That's what jerks say.
So one day,
I was just having fun.
So one day I did honk, and this dude turns around and goes boom and slams his fist down into my hood, and I'm like, I see a dent. Cool,
Well,
thank you. Sorry.
I mean,
That
play
was the
stupid games.
That was the last time I did that.
Yeah,
but
smart.
It used to be so fun.
Oh, God. I don't
Just
use my
watch-
horn for anything.
Just watching people jump. I don't know. It's Big D loves to do jump scares.
Oh, D does, man. And D, like, every once in a while I can sense him, but for the most part, like, I'll walk into my studio and he's, like, behind a door.
Yeah, I'm a silent killer.
You are, man. I don't know how you
I'm like
how
high
you
blood
scooch
pressure.
like that, but
High
bless,
blood
man.
pressure.
So right
Snooty.
now, I've got Bryson DeChambeau, one stroke behind Rose as the leader for the Masters. That's
Okay.
where I'm at. Just give you guys a heads up. I know you're about to ask me.
Okay.
Like you bet that to happen, or that's currently happening?
That's currently happening.
Oh wow.
How's your bets looking?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can bet like who is going to be in the top 20. You can bet who's going to make the cut. The cut is 50 by Saturday. Or you can bet who you think's going to win it. And so I kind of split it up a little bit. There's some guys that. So there's Bryson DeChambeau is this guy that that I was just mentioning. So he's like one of the last 10 winners of the Masters have had things in common, and he has all of them. And so
What do you mean by things in
fell for
common?
it.
Like the way they hit or the way their height?
No, like this is they had to have at least 9 Masters before, not have won one before. That's not true because Scheffler won 2 years ago. But is he here? Okay, good. And then there's just weird things like their caddies, like the last 10 winners, the caddies have been like their numbers were like 38 or 51 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And his guy is like, his number is 51. It's like weird things. And so,
So they
the golf
share the
weirdos.
caddy numbers? Like, that's weird.
What do you mean?
Like you said, the caddies like 38 or 31 or 51 or whatever.
Yeah, they
That's-
have numbers.
I didn't know the caddies had numbers.
Yeah, yep.
Why do they have numbers? I
I
thought
don't
they had a
know.
name on the back that
Well,
says
it's
who
not-
they're with.
It does, but they have a number. I don't know if the number is on there or not. I'm trying to think now. I don't think I even see I don't think the number is on it. But anyway, I fell for it. It's a TikTok video, and I'm like, oh, I better throw $1 on that.
And what were the odds?
I don't even know. I was at that point. I was just like, I'm just gonna bet it. I'm a great bettor.
Welcome.
Hi there.
Hey man, what's up?
Oh, it's nice to meet you guys. I know Carson's been here for a while, and I was thinking that I've known Carson for so long that we have to pretend we met in like middle school because we can't say, oh, we met doing this, and it was 26 years ago.
So old. But
We're
yes,
very old.
Christian, Bubba, Big D.
Hey, Christian.
Nice to
Big
meet you
D, Bubba,
guys.
Schaefer and
Same.
Garrett back there.
Yeah.
I liked you in that movie, the bird something or other.
The birdcage. You know,
That's
it's funny because you kind of get used to that when you're as handsome as Nathan Lane. I think we all.
You look just
Carson.
like him.
Carson, he's a good-looking guy,
He's a
right?
good-looking-
Obviously,
I mean,
if
for sure.
if only he played for your team, you could have been.
Absolutely.
So I have 2 small kids. My son's going to turn 10. My daughter's 7. And of course, we go see Santa Claus at the mall every year. And one year, Santa says, did anyone ever tell you look like Nathan Lane? I'm like, oh, yeah, I hear that, Santa, thanks. And then the next year, somehow, mysteriously, Santa looked different. But then 2 years later, Santa looked the same again. And he says, did anyone ever tell you look like Nathan Lane? Yeah, you, Santa, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
You can remember who's naughty and nice, but you can't remember your own conversation.
And actually, when we were pages together at NBC, I dated a guy that looked like Conan O'Brien.
Well, mini Conan O'Brien. Yeah, if you took Conan, if Conan was made out of clay and you shoved him down. Yeah.
They ask me all the time, like, would you date a short guy? I'm like, and first I dated Paul.
Yeah, it was back before the term short king existed, but I think that definitely, yeah.
Yeah, if I wore heels, I was taller than him.
Yeah, I think if you cut your kneecaps off, you still would have been taller than him.
That's I don't see that at all. Like, I know a recent person that you had gone out with, and it was an issue.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was a little bit. But no, he was not as short as Paul
Peter
was.
Dinklage? I didn't even realize. Good for you.
Look at me. So,
Carson was wonderful.
So what do you do for a living, Christian?
I have a wife who's a very successful television writer in Los Angeles. So she's worked on shows like Mad Men and Orange Is the New Black, and so we have a very nice home. What I do is I work in radio and podcasting. So we would not have a nice home if it just relied on me. But I'm in town because a show that I co-created and pitched called The 100 Songs That Define Heavy Metal. It's hosted by a guy named Brian Slagle, who he founded Metal Blade Records 43 years ago. And you might not know him, you might not know his name, but the first ever recorded Metallica song was on a compilation he put out. They put out Anthrax and Slayer records, a ton of other bands, but the ones that, people who only casually know metal. But earlier today, he complimented Carson's Ghost shirt and was like, we had them on our label. And
and I'm like,
a lot of bands leave their label to make a ton of money, like the Goo Goo Dolls put out some kind of punk rock sounding records, but then all the songs were on a different label. So
wow.
Yeah. But we have some great guests on that show, and we're in town for the Rockin' Pod, which I think it's going to be fun. It's got a bit of a Comic-Con vibe. I didn't realize I needed merch to sell at the table. All these podcasts have merch, and nobody told me that we needed to go to the merch shop. So I got nothing.
By the way, we have some at bigdandbubba.com. Just click on store. You'll be able to.
So Rockin' Pod.
Carson handed me a note that said, make sure you let them get a plug-in for the merch store. So
for our own podcast. Did you this Rockin' Pod? So it's just a bunch of podcasts that are in the same rock and roll kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's mostly rock and roll podcasts. There's a lot of comedians who have rock podcasts. So Don Jameson, Craig Gass, who people might remember, he used to be on Howard Stern a lot. Anyone who does a Gene Simmons impression, they're doing an impression of Craig Gass's. So I recorded an interview with him. I actually hung out with Don Jameson last night. People might remember him from a show called That Metal Show. And his girlfriend knew about a place that, Carson, I can't believe you didn't tell me about Santa's Pub. Because we had an amazing night at Santa's Pub.
Cash only.
I didn't. Yeah. It's good though. It keeps the government out of the transaction. You know.
Right.
I bought a T-shirt. I had so much fun.
Yeah. I didn't even. Yeah. It wasn't downtown, but yeah, you should have told me that one. I would have come to because it's 3 feet from my house.
It was also like 11:30 when we got
never mind.
There. Yeah. So.
Never mind.
Have you been to Nashville before?
Yeah, like 20 years ago, and
it's very very similar.
Yeah, I was just like, I might have been on this street. I don't think so. Yeah, it looks completely different. And it's a great town. And I'm here from LA, so I had to see if I had any cold weather stuff that I could put on.
Do you take care of the kids when your wife's working?
I do. They're old enough that they're in school, so that frees me up to do like freelance podcasting. I host a number of shows. I've had my own podcast for a while called The Black Cast. I will put in a shameless plug, BLADTCAST. That's how my name's spelled. But I do a show called Who Are These Broadcasters? It's on a network called Who Are These Podcasts that some of your audience might know because they goof on other people's podcasts.
Oh, my God. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And people would have a fun
That's like the
time
old
with
Opie
us.
and Anthony
it's Jocktober
bit.
And Carl, the guy who hosted this guy, Carl Hamburger, he says my inspiration was Jocktober.
Dude,
He's not pretending.
I used to love Jocktober.
Oh, my God.
I loved it. And like they tried to do us one time.
Yeah.
And they backed off, and I don't know what happened. Remember, it was like 15 minutes, and like we were getting all the stuff on our socials. You know how they used to hammer the socials, and then they backed off, and I'm like, oh no, what happened? And apparently somebody knew somebody or something or other, and like, they're not that bad. And they
Well, on the Who Are These Podcast Network, sometimes you'll come with a show, and you're like, yeah, I wanted to hate this, but you know, it was all right. And sometimes you're like, oh, this is great. So it's fun. My show, it's a little bit more like news clips and sports clips and talk show clips. You try to think about the old Talk Soup. Greg Kinnear used to do forever ago.
Hal Sparks.
Hal Sparks,
who you're interviewing.
We're going to see him this weekend. He did it for a while. So, it's fun. But when you get into a world of making fun of other people's podcasts, you really have to have your act together. You don't want to end up on one of those shows. So
I think everyone can end up on those shows.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It seems like everyone has a podcast now. And I forget do you have the percentage of how many people continue doing it once they start?
I don't know that, but what I do know is I used to work for a company, and it's been a while, so I don't mind saying the name. A company named Podcast One, and they put a ton of money into signing really recognizable hosts. And a lot of those hosts, most of them were from like reality TV. So they were recognizable to a specific audience. And after like 5 weeks, they're like, it's not really enough download. Let's just eat the rest of the contract. So a lot of that happened. People find out like, I don't get to just sit in front of a microphone and then they back up a Joe Rogan truck for me. It doesn't work that way.
No.
So, I think that the follow through is very small.
Because you've been doing the Blackcast for
2013. So,
because I remember going to Los Angeles when I was living in New York, and I did an episode with you, and that's because Bubba talks all the time about keeping it going and the consistency, because so few people will actually keep trucking.
And I think the key is that show that I do. The expectation is that it comes out every week. So whether it's like, okay, well, I'll do these interviews that I did for my website with some musicians or whatever, but I got to put something out every week. And I think one of the reasons why it's not as big as it could be is that each week it's a little bit something different. Sometimes it's like, Carson and I are going to talk about, the 50th anniversary of Aerosmith Toys in the Attic. But then the next week, might do like a few weeks ago, we did like a Major League Baseball preseason preview. And so it's like,
it's just kind of all over.
Yeah, it's definitely all over the place. And the show's not for everybody, but I feel like for everybody, you can pick out an episode like, I'll listen to that one. You know?
Actively right now, there are 4,396,378 total podcasts that are actively registered and being produced.
And those are just the ones at Rockin' Pod.
So the thing is, the numbers are down since last year, but they're saying that I'm looking for the actual active number, like how many people actually, how many episodes they last or whatever. I can't find it, but it used to be less than 10% of all podcasts did more than 10 episodes.
Wow.
And it was less than 1% did more than 100 episodes. And then past that, the numbers continue to decline and disappear. But that's still pretty crazy.
Well, I'm doing episode 640 this week, so I feel like that's a very steep decline.
You're in rare air there.
Good for you.
Yeah, there's not many.
You got more than us. It took me, how many years was it before you finally caved and said, okay, we'll do it? Because I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to do it early.
Yeah.
And Big D was like, there's nobody who listens to that, blah, blah, blah. Like when you first started, those first 10, 15, 20 episodes where you're doing them in a weekly, starting in 2013, the audience for podcasts was not huge.
Yeah, I had the advantage that at the time I was producing and on air on Dennis Miller's syndicated radio show. So the podcast started out living on the website, and they were like, we could make it for the premium members. Like, could we make it free so that anybody who likes the show can listen? Because I don't think people are paying extra to hear me. So we had a little bit of a built-in audience. The show only lasted for a few more years. But I think that went a long way to helping. But, the first person I ever knew who said the word podcast was a mutual friend of Carson and mine, our friend Tom Kelly. And he had explained to me what it was. He's like, okay, it's like a radio show on your computer. I'm like, okay, I've listened to radio shows on the computer. But I didn't understand how to get it. So I used to download the file, burn it onto a CD, and then play it in my car. Because I didn't have a device. It didn't work on my my Nokia flip phone or whatever I had at the time. So,
yeah, right, exactly. So how was working with Dennis? Was he cool?
He was amazing.
Dennis Miller, I always thought was so... He was really made out to be the villain for the football thing when he did Monday Night Football, and a lot I loved his whole take on it. He was very football savvy. I don't know why they hated on him so much.
I think, and he'll talk about it. He's talked about it a lot. First of all, he loved it. He had so much fun. I mean, he got to be really good friends with Al Michaels because of that, and Dan Fouts too. But I mean, I feel like we would have Al Michaels on the radio show. Like I'll have the flex that I have Al Michaels' cell phone number in my phone because of that. But I don't have Dan Fouts. But so Dennis, he got paid good money for that. They did the first year. They renewed him for 2 years. And he'll admit he settled in a little bit. He came with a bunch of jokes. The first one, like, all right, I got to try and get all these jokes in. And then you realize it's a little bit more like a conversation. I think if he had been podcasting and doing long form stuff at the time, he'd understand it's not like TV where it's joke, 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 joke. And he had never been to an NFL game before the first the Hall of Fame game that they did that season was the first time.
Crazy.
Yeah. So he did it for 2 years, and he was renewed for a third year. But then they were like, you know what, let's put Al Michaels with John Madden. And he's like, well, yeah, I would hope that if John Madden was doing an open mic at the comic strip and I showed up, they'd tell John Madden he had to wait. It's like, this is his gig, it's football. And he got paid out for that third year. So, that's always the thing. It's like, oh, you're going to pay me to not work just as much as if I did work. I'll take that.
What is he doing now?
He is mostly retired, and you can check out, you can Google him and real estate dealings. You can see that there was a large cash payment to a very famous person who liked his house and paid him. This is all, you can find it on Google. Ellen DeGeneres bought his house for like $50 million cash. So he wasn't looking to sell his house. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll take that. And, his kids were older, out of college. So it's just like they downsized. And so he's mostly retired. I still have lunch with him a few times a year. Last year, he did something on the Fox Nation app. It was a documentary series on infomercials. And the guy who created it with like, I need Dennis Miller to do this thing. So he wrote it in his voice. It worked out really well. That's the kind of stuff you can get him to do. He doesn't want to do anything like every week. We did a podcast for a while, but even that, it was just like people expect him to talk about politics. And, even going back to like early 2020, he's like, I don't really want to talk about politics anymore, but that's what everybody wants. Mm-hmm. If somebody offered him like, hey, would you like to do an old movie podcast like Gilbert Gottfried used to do? He'd be like, yes, I'll do 2 of those a week, because he's passionate about that. So he's very happy. So he, will like, go to a Dodger game like once a year. Both his son and I are Mets fans, so when they're in town, we'll go to that. So but he's great. He's never seemed happier to me, and you'll see him. He doesn't dye his hair anymore. Yeah. He's just very laid back and still telling jokes that you got to lean in really close to listen to.
Dude, I remember I went and saw him at Tulane one time. He did a show out there back in the day, and I didn't laugh one time. Because I agreed with him. Oh. I was like, yeah, preach. I mean, it was the weirdest thing. I've never been to a comedy show, and I know what he was saying was funny because people around me were laughing, but I'm like, he's right. He's right. He's right again. He kept being right all night. It was great. It was one of the best shows I've ever been to because I agreed wholeheartedly with everything. It was awesome.
It's interesting because people will talk about Dennis and like, oh, his politics really changed. And it's like, Lenny, you got to pay attention. It didn't really, there's a little bit post 9/11 that you can find, but he was always fairly liberal on social issues. And you'd hear him, it's like, all right, he was always very pro-military. And he worked for a charity that helped troops. He doesn't work with them anymore, so I don't need to give him a plug. But no, I'm just kidding. They're called USA Cares. It's his. I would always challenge people. I'm like, listen, he continued to do comedy specials. I actually warmed up the crowd before one he did in Knoxville in I think 2018. And it was great. I mean, that was a great house for him. That was like the home crowd. They loved him. And it's like, just listen to the jokes and the politics in there. No, I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with a lot of things. But I'm like, that's a good joke. Mm-hmm. So it's like, that's all that really matters. It's hard for people to like laugh, I remember seeing him in Vegas once, and he went into some pretty funny material about global warming, and some old guy just stood up, looked at the stage and waved his hands, went, and left. So I was like, that's the thing that made you leave, But working with him first on television and then radio, you would just see like he'd get a ton of jokes submitted to him for the TV show, and he'd look at it And he'd go like, no, this isn't right. And he would sit there and look at the teleprompter and he's thinking and he changes one word. And you go like, that was a lot of time. I don't know if that was worth it. And then in front of the audience, like, oh my God, that joke killed 10 times better than you would have thought it would because he picked the right word.
Yeah.
You know, and it was very meticulous. It was almost like he talks about a comedian named Larry Miller, who, you know, it was almost like he would put the jeweler's loop and sit down. Let's talk about that joke you just told. Let's really like break it open and go into it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I always go back to Norm Macdonald, the Nothing Special.
Yeah.
To me, that was one of the
He was
greatest.
telling me, because Dennis and Norm were like such great friends.
Yeah, they were
and
very
so
good
he's
friends.
talking about getting, like, when Norm would come on the radio show and here's Christian sitting in the room and
There's-
I'm like,
Yeah,
oh
there's a
my
video
gosh.
you can find. Dennis didn't usually. He lives up in the Santa Barbara area, Montecito, and we would do the show in Los Angeles. Every once in a while, he'd have business or whatever, and he'd come down to LA. So we did a show in studio with him, and when he was going to be around, Norm Macdonald would come in, who I know from when I was an intern at SNL, and he loved Dennis, so he came in. Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso himself, was on SNL at the time, and he's like, I don't know, I guess his manager mentioned something. He's like, well, I want to sit in on that. And so it's Dennis Miller, Norm Macdonald, Jason Sudeikis, and me off in the corner. You can Google that video. You will find it. You'll see me.
Is it awesome?
It's amazing. I talk once, but I'm like, that's what I'm there for. I'm not there to like jump.
Yeah, but you
Hey,
get
Norm.
credit.
Hey, Norm. What do you think about? Hey, Norm. Remember your no. So
You got a credit though.
Yeah.
You were there.
yeah, I was there, and you know, maybe a month goes by, and I don't get a message from somebody. It's like, hey, this is you in this video. I'm like, yep, that's me right there. And yeah, I mean, Norm was amazing because he was so funny, and we used to have him on the radio show every week, and it would be like, okay, let's figure out what we're going to talk about, and I'd talk to him for like an hour and a half sometimes, and it's like, Norm, I love you, I got to go home. He's like, hey, just one more. I'm like, all right. And, you know, I'm glad I had that time with him. But it was just so funny because I'm on the phone with him, or like, you know, I've got Dana Carvey trying out voices. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm working on this. What do you think of this one? I'm like, what do I think of it? I don't know. I mean, if you think you should do it, obviously it doesn't matter. But
They respect you. They respect your opinion.
It was crazy, yeah, to be in there. And, you know, the last time I saw Norm, it was back when David Spade had a show on Comedy Central. And so the guests were Dennis, Norm, and Kevin Nealon. For SNL nerds, that's 3 Weekend Update anchors in a row. And the show was great, but backstage with the three of them and Spade, I'm like, I mean, that's the show that if it had been recorded, none of them would have had a career by the next day.
Right.
It was
We
so
talk
funny.
about that all the time.
Yeah.
It's some of the best stuff is when the microphones are off, but you can't
Yeah.
you can't
Oh, yeah.
get away with that.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of like, I can't believe this person has a career, or this one still has a job, and, you know, things like that. And you're just like, I mean, everything they're saying is right, but yeah, they can't actually go out there and say it, you know.
So how was it working with Carson back in the day whenever she was fresh out of college?
Did we ever give tours together? I feel like
I think we
we
feel
might
like we
have.
must have.
So
I think you helped train me.
yeah, well, because I knew everything about giving tours of the NBC studios. And you find out pretty quick, like, the script you were given is like, a lot of this stuff is like factually incorrect, but you got to stick to it. And I mean, it was fun because back then you kind of had your run. Like, the studios weren't locked; they're all locked now. You can't.
Yeah,
you can't
9/11 changed it, but for us, I tell the story and people don't believe it. I talked to someone that was in my page class, because you start in like groups of 5 or 6, and they bring you in. And one of the girls in my page class, I go, "Can you believe we used to just, if you had on this stupid blue uniform and you just walked anywhere in the building, they let you through.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, you're a page.
You obviously belong
must
there.
have to go somewhere.
Yeah, it's
So-
like in a movie when like the serial killer, like, you know, grabs the police uniform of the cop that he just pushed down the stairs, and he sneaks out. So we were basically, you know, serial killers running around
yep.
30 Rock. And yeah, it was really easy to just kind of go in, and I'd have friends visiting. I'm like, oh, do you want to go take a picture on the SNL set? And you could never do that now, but it was just like you just walked in, and it's like, and if somebody who like worked on the crew saw you, they wouldn't even blink. It's like, oh, yeah,
Because you belonged.
yeah, just somebody's there taking pictures, you know. So, yeah, but the day-to-day part of that job was giving tours and seating people in the audiences for the show. But I mean, it was fun. I mean, I would say I have more and like deeper friendships than I do even from college. Just that 1 year as a page.
Yeah, the shared experience, because it's so unique.
When you guys would seat people like in the audience for whatever show it may be, SNL or whatever it may be, Did you put like really interesting looking people up front? Like you go, this is a character. They have to be on camera.
Well, usually the people in the front are the VIP list, but especially on SNL because it's live, everything else was taped. Or I guess Rosie O'Donnell's show was live, but for the most part, everything else was taped, so you could kind of wait. And it didn't matter whose name was on that piece of tape. And anybody who's watched SNL, you see there's people sitting right there by the stage. And I know because I remember from then, there's 38 seats, 19 on either side, and if it's 11:27 and it's like there's somebody not in that seat, I don't care whose name is on there. You have to go find someone. And usually I'll have like gotten my friends in the show somehow that you can't do anymore either. So I would like run and grab them. Like, you have to come with me. Believe me, you'll be glad. And so then they would be sitting right there. If you had somebody too weird in a prime spot, somebody would be like, can you move them over there? Give them a T-shirt or something.
Yeah, they didn't want a weird-looking person.
What?
Yeah.
No.
So somebody really interesting and bizarre and eye-catching was...
That's bad. That's a distraction.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think if like Conan O'Brien would probably be the most likely to, if somebody's really interesting and different looking, he's probably going to find them when he comes out before the show, and he'll talk to them and he'll gauge like, okay, yeah, I might talk to that person during the show. But yeah, I think it's like if somebody shows up like, oh, they're here with a bit, they're determined to do something, it's not going to go over well. So,
No, there was a girl we worked with who was a page, and her girlfriend was obsessed with Angelina Jolie. And Angelina was on Conan. And so she got her girlfriend into the audience. And at the end of the show, Angelina's on the set with Conan, and her girlfriend runs down the stairs, is clutching a letter that she has written. She's yelling, Angelina. And we're like, girl, you about to get fired.
Wow.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you got to know who you're putting in
So
those
did she
spots.
get tackled, or what happened?
I don't remember.
I think I wasn't around at that point, but yeah, there are people that basically like you stood at the studio doors just to watch the audience, but there were also a couple of big retired NYPD officers who, even in New York, were able to carry.
Could you tell who the kooks were? You knew?
Yeah, you would look and be like, yeah, I'm a little worried about this person, and they're like, okay, yeah, let's keep an eye.
Did
on
you have
them.
earpieces?
Yeah, we didn't. It was more like in the older movies when it's like, oh, we might be being watched, so let's cover our mouth when we
Be on
talk.
the lookout for the guy over there in the blue shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's trying to explain to people that the best way to describe it is a fraternity, even though it was after college, that because we lived in each other's pockets all day long, but then we would all go out together, and then you would kind of sleep like wherever you fell at someone's house. Because I think you lived in Jersey.
I did, yeah. I lived out in beautiful Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yeah. And I was back and forth. Sometimes I lived on the Upper East Side. I lived in the Bronx with Paul. I would sometimes stay at my parents' house in Connecticut, and it would be, whose house am I going to tonight? And just sleep where you crash. So it was, we just lived and breathed and did everything together. Again, we dated. We were all friends. It was just you were.
We
this
didn't
weird little,
date, but we
no,
did
Christian
date
and
from
I did
within.
not
We
date,
did
but
date
yeah.
from within the pool.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, the job was the job was fun, but it wasn't really that hard, especially in the summer. And I do remember there was a point. I mean, we would hit it hard. I was like, man, I went out hard like 13 out of 14 nights. I'm like, maybe I want to slow down a little bit. So
why was it more chill in the summer?
Because a lot of the shows weren't going on, and you're just mostly given tours. There's no SNL. Conan takes a lot of weeks off. Rosie O'Donnell was off for the whole summer.
Yeah.
So it was really like just Conan, and I mean, they probably took 4 weeks off in the summer.
I just watched Conan do some speech at Google or something from several years ago, and it was so good.
Oh,
yeah. He's so sharp. Like it's a different side of him than you even saw on the show, because he's ripping on the Google executives. He's like, why are you talking? They're here for me. They're not here for you.
That was also part of our page speech, because we're this old, that we would bring people into Conan O'Brien. I know Conan seems like he came out of nowhere, folks, but he was a writer on The Simpsons. He wrote the monorail episode. We all would work in the fact that Conan wrote the monorail episode.
But if you look at like what episodes did Conan write, it's the monorail, but it's probably like 5 of the
best.
top 20 episodes at least. And he was like in his early 20s when he did that. And, I mean, he was like, literally nobody knew who he was when he took over Late Night from Letterman. But he had done so much. And I guess, Lorne Michaels does have an eye for talent. If the track record does speak for itself. For every Jim Carrey that they let away, there's a bunch of Adam Sandlers and Spades and Farleys and all the people that he.
I was thinking about the Jim Carrey thing too, because that was his whole life's goal.
Yeah,
I watched something on him, and he was just tried over and over, and they just were like, nah,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, and then he goes on Living Color, where he probably got to do more than he would have, mostly because that show wasn't live, so you could try different things and you could cut it together. But yeah, no, it's there's a few of those, and then there's people who were like established and then went on the show, and it was like, people forget like Sarah Silverman was there and barely did anything. Jeanine Garofalo was there for a while. Chris Elliott, who I think people like as a comedic actor. I mean, Something About Mary alone, but it was like he didn't do anything memorable on there, and it kind of happens. Like that guy Tim Robinson, he has a sketch show that I can't remember the name of because I didn't think I was going to be talking about it right now, but it's on Netflix, and it's great, but it's so like, it's definitely one of those like out there sketches shows, and you're like, well, this guy never fit into SNL, so yeah, it's crazy to think about that. And the people who do fit in there, like the greats, the Lovitzes, the Phil Hartmans, and the people. Bill Murray, yeah. Oh, that's what I was gonna say when you're talking about when we were Pages. We worked the Saturday Night Live 25th anniversary special, and Bill Murray was there, and he was trying to get in through security, and they're like, "Yeah, do you have an ID? Or are you on a list?" And I, because I have my polyester uniform on, I'm like, "Yeah. He's a Ghostbuster. He can come in. It's all right." And it was just like, you don't, there's pictures like in the building.
How did the security people not let Bill Murray in?
You know what? I don't know. It's.
I mean, wouldn't you know? I mean, because again, he was Bill Murray at the time.
Yeah.
By that time, he, like you said, a Ghostbuster, but he also had Caddyshack and all these.
Yeah,
other...
and I mean, this Groundhog Day. I mean, this is 1999. Yeah. And it's. Yeah, so
he's Bill Murray.
Yeah,
like people know Bill Murray, but apparently not our security.
Yeah, no, that's true.
What do you think about Morgan walking off before at the end of the?
Yeah, I saw that, and I was just like, I don't know why they make everybody stand there. Usually, there's plenty of times where people just don't even show up for that part. They call it the good nights at the end where they wave. And, I think it was just probably like, all right, they said thank you, to the guests. And then he's like, all right, it's time to go.
Yeah, it didn't look bad to me.
No, it didn't. And people like were showing it. I'm like, well, clearly I didn't watch this in the right context. So like I found the episode and I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, right, he was done. Like, it's not like, they were saying.
He didn't seem unhappy.
Yeah. And then it's like he wanted to go to God's country. I'm like, well, good, because I mean, I don't want to be on that block that 30 Rock is on at 1 a.m, That's one of the nicest blocks in Manhattan. I still don't want to be there at that time of night. I'd like to go home too, So yeah, I mean, people make a big deal about it, and it's like, that's nothing compared to like when Kanye was on there and ranting and, some of the other stuff that happened. So it's like, all right, they probably just felt like, all right, we can try to make a story out of this, even though there's not a story there.
Yeah, it's because of his name. It's
you'll click somebody hired a lip reader to see what he was saying during the good nights. And it was basically like, thanks, guys. I had a good time.
Yeah.
Like, it was all very positive and uplifting. And we're all like, yeah, again, like you said, I think some people just tried to make it a story because it was Morgan.
Yeah.
And his name is going to get clicks.
Yeah, but
before you leave, what's the podcast where they rip the podcast again?
It's called Who Are These Podcasts?
Okay.
And a guy named Carl Hamburger does it.
Hi, Carl.
And he has as a regular co-host on Wednesdays. This guy's name is Adam Bush. He was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was also like a Nickelodeon actor. So people might be like, oh yeah, I know that guy. But it's interesting because every week it'll be like, okay, here's a bad podcast you've never heard of. But then there's some regulars that they cover. And it's funny you mentioned Opie and Anthony in Jocktober, because one of the most common targets is Greg Opie Hughes, who does live streams where he talks to the chat.
Oh, no.
And he's like, oh, you guys are asking me about Anthony again? I don't want to talk about him. Well, then that's not even a super chat. You didn't have to put that up. Because Anthony's doing great. He is somebody. Yeah, he's got on WABC in New York, and they gave him like a once a week 2-hour show. The first show they did, his listenership was 215% over what was there before him. And then they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to syndicate you. And hey, how about a third hour? And Anthony tells the story is like, he just wanted to be back on the radio because he has his own network. He does a bunch of live streaming stuff. And they're like, okay, yeah, well, the contract's for like $150. And he's like, all right, so I'll get like $150 a show and I'll get a share there. No, they gave him like $150,000, which, for 2 hours a week. And so that drove Opie crazy. He's like, they're not paying him $150,000 for 2 hours. And like, Opie doesn't talk the way he used to. Like, what I'm doing as an impression you know what? Go ahead. Go to Opie Unleashed NYC, and you'll hear him, and you'll hear the way he talks, and he tries to do like
Is he
prank
just
videos.
angry, or?
He's very angry because he never got like the huge payday, and because he was always like he would only do 2-year contracts. Because he's like, no, the big offer is going to come from. He had it in his head that they were going to go to LA and make a ton of money, but they were already syndicated, and then they were on First XM and then syndicated back on CBS Radio because who knew that David Lee Roth wasn't going to be a good morning man? So they were like, well, let's get Opie and Anthony. And so, yeah, they never really made the money. And so he's got a ton of money, but he didn't get, he never got Howard money. And I think that's the chip on his shoulder. That he, in his mind,
no one got Howard money.
He gets Howard money.
In his mind, he's better than Howard. And I'm like, look, you guys did a good show, but Howard's Howard. You were Opie, and there was Anthony, and don't forget Jim Norton, who was also great on that show. You know, so like you're a cog in the machine. And he's very bitter, and he hates that somebody like Carl does a podcast that gets so many more. Like Opie will live stream every morning. He has an apartment overlooking the Hudson River. He's like, good morning from 20 stories up in the air. And he'll just read the chat, and he has his regulars. And he's like, I got my coffee. Hey, doggy. And he does these voices, and you're like, who are you talking to? He has nothing to talk about. Anthony does a show. He talks about politics. It's prepared. Jim Norton has a few different shows that he does. Opie just gets in fights with the chat, people who are giving him like $2. And the big target, and they're actually focused, literally a $2 super chat. And that business model was started.
What is a super chat? I don't know. What is a super chat?
So if you're on YouTube and you want to comment, obviously people can be there and comment, but it's like, all right, well, I'm buried in all these comments. If you super chat, you put a dollar amount to it, and then there's like a gentleman's agreement. You are going to bring it up, whatever it says, and maybe you're not going to read it, but you have to share it because otherwise, then people aren't going to super chat you. And you can get $2. You can get up to 50. You can get 100. I think the cap is 200. And I don't know who has money to comment and give $200 to be on a live stream. But if somebody, like on the show I do, who are these broadcasters? We got a $50 one. I'm like, sorry, we got to stop what we're talking about because somebody decided to give us $50. I want it, so let's talk about it. So Opie will do that.
We need to start doing this.
Yeah.
Is Lance going to super
you
chat?
should definitely super chat.
Okay.
And you might
the
have
thing
to.
is, we let them on if we don't get paid. We just let them.
Well, that's the thing too, because like we'll put up comments on who are these broadcasters. It's like, oh, these are funny comments. We'll bring them up anyway. But you have people who really live for the super chats, and they're like, I'm not putting up the poor chat. And the guy who built this business model is Stuttering John Melendez from the Howard Stern show. Who, if you were to see him now, you'd be like, no, there's no way. That's the mom from Throw Mama from the Train. That's not John Melendez. There's no way.
Wow, really?
Yeah. He doesn't look the way you think he ever did. He's actually much shorter than you think. And he would also not have comedy. He'd get into fights with people. And they do the same thing with Opie. They'll tell you something's true because they know it'll make you mad. And it's like, well, somebody said it in a super chat. It must be true, you know? So
they paid for it to be true.
Yeah, right, exactly. It might as well be true. So, yeah, Who Are These Podcasts really focuses on some of those. And, you know, they'll go around and find other stuff. I mean, I went before O.J. Simpson passed away. He was doing sports commentary on a podcast. And it was like, hey, let's talk about the Bills this weekend with O.J. Simpson. And it was just the most surreal thing because these guys would joke around. It's like, yeah, that's O.J. Simpson right there, and he's on a show. So I would try to find stuff like that and bring stuff. It's crazy the stuff that's out there. It's crazy the people you talked about, the millions of people who have podcasts. There's so many out there, and there's so many of them are so bad.
So bad.
For so many reasons, you know?
Yeah, I think it's pretty human nature, psychology, whatever. If someone gives you a compliment, all of a sudden, especially guys, we'll run with it and think that this is, I should start up a whole business.
I need to do more of this, all of this.
That's like, hey,
I'm the funniest guy you know.
Look at these shoes. These are really nice shoes. Well, I'm going to start a podcast that tells people what kind of shoes they should buy. It just gets into it.
And you can super chat the Shoecast and maybe put $2 and people talk about shoes. And everything will work out perfectly.
So are you from New York originally?
Yeah, I'm from New York originally. I moved to LA 22 years ago.
Okay.
Actually ended up working with Dennis Miller within a year. I met my wife within the first year. I met her actually on Dennis's TV show. So it was within a year. I was like, oh yeah, this was the right thing.
All the
for
good
my
stuff
career.
happened.
Yeah, it all happened really quick. And I was like, this is great.
Chris did like you did, like Christian did really cool to try to get to LA. That you, on your resume, you used a friend's LA address.
Oh, yeah, I did do that. So I would fly out. Because back then you could get like $99 one-way JetBlue flights. So I get called for interviews. And I'd be like, can you come in on Thursday? Oh, man, I just went out of town. Can I come in on Monday? Yeah, no problem. So I would fly out over the weekend. And I pretended to live there before I ever did. So didn't actually get any of those jobs, though. But I did have some good interviews.
Well, because when I interviewed for some jobs out in Los Angeles when we were Pages, they all said the same thing to me. They're like, we love you and would hire you, but you don't live here. I said, but I'll move. They say everybody says that.
Yeah.
Everybody says they'll move and they won't. I was like, no, you don't understand. I will move here. I promise you I want to move here.
Do they still pay people to move them now? Is that, I mean, because I know that used to be the thing, that used to be the norm.
I think there are industries that'll do it, but anything entertainment won't do that. And I think like I would have done what Carson's talking about. No, I'll move me out. I'll start the job. I'll get my stuff whenever, and even if it's not for months, it's fine. I don't need to move my stuff.
When I went to Miami, I didn't have, it was before cell phones. So I was trying to get a job. There was no way for anybody to get in touch with me because I lived in a Burger King parking lot. I mean, literally, my buddy and I were camping in the car trying to figure out where we're going to get money for the next food, the next meal. But like we were trying to get jobs, and it would be so different now, I think, if it was in the cell phone era, because you could totally pretend, oh yeah, I'm right here, I'm whatever,
Yeah, and even when I moved in 2003,
your flight thing is brilliant.
Yeah, well, it was affordable back then, and it was great. It was because I was going from New York to LA. It made it actually fairly possible, and I wouldn't buy the return trip ticket. I tried to set up some other interviews and stuff, and then I'd go back eventually. And usually by the time I landed, I had somebody else looking to see me next week. So I was like, all right, I shouldn't come back, but. So it's, I agree though. And that was the one thing, even in 2003, you could have a phone number from like a different area code. Even then they were like, yeah, it's fine. But, you have an address here, so you must live here. It's like, yes, I wouldn't lie on my resume,
I had that
sworn document.
I had that, I had a Miami number, but it was basically just a voicemail.
Oh, yeah.
And so they would call and it would go straight to voicemail and it would record the message. And then I would have to call and check my messages later just to be able to see if I got a call back.
I had a pager that worked like that, but you had to listen to the message and you could replay it. So if there's any information you needed to write down, but you couldn't save it. So as soon as you listened to it, it was gone.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I had that. But that number, that pager, had like a New York City number. So even though, like, I grew up in where the suburbs just started to get rural, a little town with like a 9-mile lake on it. It was like 45 miles, but it also felt like 45 years removed from New York City. So it was like, oh, yeah, of course I can, be anywhere in New York. That was a little easier to fake because I just had to get in the car or jump on a train. But the LA thing, I actually forgot all about that I used to pretend that I lived somewhere. And then because of the neighborhood that I pretended I lived in, you had people that made assumptions about your personal life because it's like, well, if you live in West Hollywood, I guess I know what that means. And I was like, oh, no. But
you leaving here?
Yeah.
You leaving here and going to the old Waffle House, I hear?
Yeah, I do love a Waffle House. And the closest we have them to LA is in the Phoenix area. And I was just out there for some spring training baseball when my kids were on spring break. But I don't know the next time I'm going to get Waffle House. So I got to make sure.
What's your order? What do you get?
So I forget the nicknames. I always have to look, but it's mostly about the hash browns. And I want them with the cheese, the chili, and the mushrooms. I don't need anything else in it.
Smothered and covered?
Yep.
Is that what that is?
And one of them's topped. I think this topped the.
Oh, it may be.
Yeah.
Might be a mushroom.
And I always need a waffle. I don't
just
need,
one.
I don't need an egg, especially now, because I understand it's 50 extra cents. If you want an egg, it's fine. I can eat eggs at home.
I think that's coming down though.
Okay,
right?
good. All right. So
Well, we'll find out. We're gonna go.
It's 40 cents. Yeah, you're a quarter. Yeah. So, so I want a waffle. I want the hash browns, and my wife and I both love the hash browns. And we make our kids go. It's like, all right, this is going to be a treat. And they're like, those hash browns look gross. I'm like, all right, well, I'll eat those and you eat the waffle. Yeah. So, yeah. Phoenix is a weird place because it's like got a little bit from everywhere. They've got a lot of Cracker Barrels. They have Whataburger, which we don't have out there. but they also have like White Castle from the East Coast, and I know. Those
Yeah,
are
they
down
pretty
here.
much have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's great. So it's like, oh, do you like trash fast food? Yes, I do. So
Come to Phoenix.
and do you want to stay inside because it's 118 degrees? Great. Come to Phoenix.
Basically, Phoenix,
Yeah.
it's like, do you like to hike? Yeah. Do you like to play golf? Yeah. Do you like classic cars? Yeah. And
Do it in the winter.
fast food.
Well, if you like to hike and you like to play golf, it's like great. You wanna get up and head out at 3 a.m. and you want to be home by 10 a.m.
I have to tell you guys before we let him go, like the most ridiculous Christian story that I go to his house. I had come to visit. I'm in Los Angeles, and I was so tight on a schedule. You were tight on a schedule. It was like, hey, why don't we do breakfast? Come to the house. He and his wife had just had their first baby. And he's like, you can come meet Felix. And I was like, yeah. And so we sit down. They've made these wonderful, like, blueberry pancakes. I really went out.
That does sound like me, yeah.
You really did. And you go, do you want coffee? I'm like, yeah, I don't really drink coffee. And he goes, well, would it be different if it was Don Draper's coffee?
Oh, that's right.
Because his wife worked on Mad Men.
Mad
She
Men,
was a
yeah.
writer. And so when the show ended, she took the coffee maker. And I was like, are you telling me John Hamm might have used this coffee maker? Yes, I want that.
He might have held it. Yeah, we do have a lot of Don Draper pens and mugs and things, but I forgot we had the coffee maker. We still have it.
Yeah. And I was like, I will tell everybody anytime I drink Don Draper coffee.
super cool.
It's so dorky and so me, but yeah, it was the greatest non-story, but so ridiculous.
Well, dude, it's a pleasure to meet. We've heard so much about you.
Oh my gosh, it was so great.
Glad
I
it
know-
worked
I
out
know-
and you could run over here. Thanks
Yeah,
for taking
yeah,
the
we-
time
coming.
to do that.
Yeah, they had to talk. Brian had to talk to Craig Gass, but fortunately we were done. And it was like, "Do you still want to come on?" I'm like, "Yeah," because Carson knows I was so bummed because I was like, "Oh, this would have been great to come here and talk to you guys." Because I don't know when I'll be here again.
Yeah.
Will I be back for Rockin' Pod? We'll see. Who wants to pay for me to come? That's what it comes down to. So yeah, this was great. It was great to meet you guys, and always fun talking about all this stuff.
All right, well, enjoy Waffle House. I will remind everyone.
I should have come to the game to where Christian and her could have fought to the death. Shoot.
NBC trivia, he'd win.
That's right.
This was the podcast, but now it's over. But that's okay, because you can listen to the regular show on the radio every day.
It was the Big D and Bubba Weekly Podcast.
The Big D and Bubba Weekly Podcast. The Big D and Bubba Weekly Podcast.
The Big D and Bubba Weekly Podcast.